Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Welcome to the first ever World People of Nature Day celebration, a day that has been marked to honor the work of nature professionals from across the globe. I'm Sabika Razvi from WeNaturalists, your host for this evening. As you all know, WeNaturalists is a one of a kind ecosystem dedicated to people and organizations working in nature. So it was only natural that we mark one day to celebrate the actions of those who dedicate their lives to protect, conserve, and preserve natural ecosystems. Through the course of this evening, we will witness some of the greatest minds in nature sharing their stories and thoughts from all over the world. I quickly want to tell you what you can expect during the event. We will start with a webinar, the theme for which is Green Childhood. And after that, we will be conducting the award ceremony. And without further ado, I would like to invite Amit, the founder of WeNaturalists, to share his vision.
Thanks, Sabika. On behalf of our co-founder Poonam, entire WeNaturalist family, I welcome you all for the first People of Nature Day celebration. What a journey it has been. When we started, we were like that kid who chases that ray of light with a sliver of hope and always believes that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I remember when we started, a lot of people mentioned that you are entering a utopian world or probably trying to build a utopian world. We also were told that this community is so difficult to bring together. It's going to be very difficult for you to make them work together because they always love to work in silos. But to be honest with you, there were few who were optimists, and they said, this particular platform or what we have built over here as WeNaturalists is overdue. We could have done it 20 years back and our world would have been very different. Some also mentioned that probably we are doing a greatest service to the mankind because this is the only place where you can build a different world altogether, not for just naturalists or people of nature, but the world at one place. So it was very natural for us to go with a popular belief because people said that it's not going to work. But we thought that let's stay with the optimists. Let's stay with people who say that, yes, we can build it. We can build a different world altogether. So more than me, I'm glad that I had an amazing team who supported this vision. And more importantly, I would like to thank my co-founder Poonam, who stood as a rock to build this platform to where it is today. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, this day is special for all of us at WeNaturalist in many ways, not just one. And I think it will be etched in history because of multiple reasons. Primarily, what I believe is that it's not about because we started on this particular day or the thought actually became and it actually got into our heads. It's also not about that WeNaturalists was launched on 1st of October, but I personally believe it's more important because we thought of celebrating people of nature on 1st of October. It's all of you, where we believe that the world should celebrate everyone, each of these wonderful people who have dedicated their lives for nature, for work in nature, and would continue to do so till eternity. So I'm happy to see some of you resonating with the idea of People of Nature Day, and rightly so, because many such initiatives that we will take at WeNaturalists will help us achieve our larger goal. I think our goal stems from what we need to create as awareness among people, promote adoption of nature-based initiatives as a part of our daily lives, empower the ones who have been leading from the front. It is a movement, and it will only succeed if and when everyone comes together. And I firmly believe in this particular thought process that it's about if and it's about when, right? And I don't think both the answers are very clear, that we don't have time. We don't have time enough to do this. So without further ado, I want to call one of our key guiding angels on to the front and request Dr. Ramboj, who's been a celebrated conservation mind, a great mentor, and most importantly, an amazing human being to share his thoughts about the World People of Nature Day. He's the CEO of Mobius Foundation, spent years together at UNESCO, and recently he has come on board with WeNaturalists to be a guiding light and to mentor us in our journey. Over to you, Dr. Bhuj.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you so much. I think I could just see the enthusiasm, the conviction, and hope that you just emitted for all of us, the whole community, the conservation community, the people of nature. And this day, I think it should have happened long back. But anyway, I could see the spark in your eyes when we first met, that this is the man who can deliver. So finally, of course, I think we met around 3 months back.
Yeah, a bit more.
Yes, and you delivered it. So many congratulations to you and your entire team from all of us, we all the naturalists. So nothing much to say because this is the conservation community. Everybody knows each other and we all know about nature. And when UN started this whole initiative of SDGs, of course, people, planet, these two, of course, there are other 3 Ps, but people and planet, these are so inseparable, inalienable, that without connecting people with nature or the resources of the planet, we cannot survive. We cannot think of existence on this earth. So that is one. The other thing, my association with UNESCO for many years, we had a program, of course, it's still running, Man and the Biosphere program, MAB. I think one of the oldest conservation program, a wonderful program. It's your man of nature very well, people of nature very well gels into that program. And within the UNESCO, you have this close to around 900 network of biosphere reserves. And all those which are living within these reserves, within or around those areas, they are really the people of nature. And before that, of course, means you all might be familiar with these reserves and also the natural heritage sites, the World Heritage, which are basically the outstanding places having outstanding universal value for humanity. There is another area where, of course, I was associated. Rather, I began my career long back, some 3 decades back, working in the sacred forest groups in Northeast India. In fact, I was just going through a book which my professor wrote long back, Conserving the Sacred. And there, of course, he has documented, means that this is an edited book, but there are close to over 500 these sacred forest sites all along the world. So these people of nature are everywhere. And they are the hope, they are our conviction, greatest support. And I hope, without taking much of the time, this UN decade of ecosystem restoration, I think that is another hope. And it is very well said that nature is the only solution, rather the solution for the climate crisis.
How are you?
COP26 is going to happen very soon. And I think what Secretary General of United Nations said when just after the COP25, that our assault, our war on nature must stop. And nature is the only solution for all our problems, including climate change. The other thing is biodiversity COP is also going to happen just after a week in Kunming, China. Of course, it will be virtually. And this is very important because, again, this COP is based, the theme is based on in harmony with nature, how we harmonize everything with nature. So people of nature, they have always worked towards that. In the Indian ethos, Prakriti or Purush, nature and the people again, thousands of years back, this ethos were very well ingrained, that man and nature, they are inseparable. So with these words, I once again congratulate the Amit and his team.
Global warming.
All of you, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Boj. And I think all these words will always resonate with us, because I think every time that I've spoken to you, I've taken something home, and that's always stayed with me. And I try to build that as part of our ethos, part of our philosophy in one way or the other. Thank you so much for being there. So it's time for our discussion on the subject, which is extremely close to my heart, which is green childhood. And our theme of the event exactly goes with the current requirement, right? This subject will always remain the most prominent one for the next 20, 30 years, because this is the only thing where I feel can make a difference and let us achieve any targets, whether it's 2030 or 2050. It's an important component to help achieve WeNaturalist goals as well, because it's integrated with our thought process in every possible way. This thought is very simple, that we can't ignore the role of children in addressing climate crisis. And all that we have tried to do is build upon that. And I mean role of children as children and not when they grow old. And that's the most important thing. So I don't want to do anything over here if in case I get the result 20 years later. It doesn't make sense, right? So we have a lot to talk about this subject, but during the course of our discussion with the esteemed panel, right? But at this point in time, I'd like to call upon two angels, Anaira and Amira, who personify green childhood for us. They are living this concept at a very, very early age. They are so well supported by their mother and advising them, supporting them, in this journey. Yeah, amazing. Hi, girls. How are you doing?
Hi, everyone. Hi, everybody.
I'm doing good.
Great. So amazing to see you guys. So just to give you a little bit of a background. Since they were 4-year-old, they were drawn to recycling things at home and at the school. They have an amazing show, Sunny Side Up. It used to not only create more awareness about the SDGs, but make it fun and incorporate it in our daily lives by suggesting films to watch, books to read, etc. When it comes to green childhood, they lead by example. And I think there are a lot of things to be learned from them. I would let them tell us their stories and see how they can inspire the world of green childhood. Over to you guys.
Thank you. So what's green childhood? Because I'm serious, all the guests are waiting. Okay. So let's introduce ourselves. So first, greetings everyone who is present. So I'm Amira, and I'm Anaira, the founder of Thoughtful Minds ORG. So we interview change makers across the world. We hope to interview all of you soon. And of course, like create musical campaigns for different causes. And of course, we believe that like by partnerships, we can achieve all the SDGs. And being thoughtful is at the very core of doing all that you do. Think about it. What are the qualities which are common in all of you present and everyone who has organized this event? You all are thoughtful minds. We are very happy to have you all here and thank you for your time. Of course, we naturalists are a remarkable one-of-a-kind networking platform to organize this and give us this opportunity. So all we naturalists, welcome to the first ever International Day of People of Nature and this super event. And now coming back to green childhood. Green childhood is of course like ecological, like taking care of nature, environment, and etc. While we were thinking about it, we realized childhood is growing up and learning life skills as simple as getting potty trained or knowing what's dangerous like a knife. Similarly, when we begin academics, we begin with the ABCs. And so we thought of clubbing the ABCs and the green, and we came up with this book called The Green Kid ABCs. So yeah. This is a Green Kids ABCs making sustainability a part of learning and basic skills. So, for instance, like Mutainai, M for Mutainai. So, Mutainai is not wasting stuff and trying to use it for as much time possible. Thank you, Amaya. So this book really symbolizes green childhood for us. And the best part is that you can keep it for years, as it has so many age group levels. It's got alphabets, it's got pictures, facts, and concepts. It will also have teachers explaining concepts like umbrella species or even Mutainai, which is generally not taught somehow. We think the earlier kids are told about sustainability, the better, because we brought about change in our families, through the process when we were 4 years old, and through we can't stay we are making 100% sustainable choices. We are mindful of everything, send of a cloth bag for groceries, and removing single-use plastic from our homes, straws and packaging, and of course segregating our waste. So yeah. So you all must be thinking, these girls are just 8 years old. What must they know about all that we've been working hard for? Well, we do get that sometimes. We were just 3 years old when we were exposed to the concept of recycling and not wasting. Wasting has been there forever, and then when we were we went to year 2, we were introduced to the SDGs, and the SDGs. The SDGs were linked with all the schoolwork that we would do. So, Amara, we really got involved, and in the pandemic, when we had time, of course, help from my mom, to combine our two passions, SDGs and the kids' reviews. That's when thoughtful minds came into being. Yes.
Great.
As we believe being thoughtful is most important in order to achieve any SDG, and only together all the problems of the world be solved. For example, climate change is linked to gender inequality. Women in villages have to travel really far to get water, and increasing unavailability of water makes their life much harder. Or the poor people become poorer because of the climate problems, and because of the floods, and the wildfire affect the poor even more. They lose their houses, jobs, everything, even lives, as explained for G is for justice in our book. So the J is for justice in our book, for our climate book. I can't find it right now. We feel every child has the power to change her or his family. They are the biggest change makers, and honestly, they don't care about making profit and harming animals and environment. Some might not change their practice of using plastic bags at home, but if their child insists, they definitely will. And we hope that green childhood movement by Team WeNaturalists will enlighten all our future, and this book, The Green Kids ABCs plays an important role in it. And it's for free, like just go on our bio and the link of like the flipbook is there, online book version. And after all the green introduction, education should be free. Like all of the green education should be free. We would like to conclude by quoting William Wordsworth: "The child is the father of the man." And thank you. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Your encouragement would mean a lot to us. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much, girls. And yes, you're right. Child is the father of the man. So agree totally. Just one quick question. Did your mom ever say that why are you asking so many questions?
I don't get the questions.
Did your mom ever say that you are asking too many questions?
In the sunny side up?
No, no, it's okay. I got it. So thank you so much for being there, girls. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for letting us be here. It's been a really an honor. We've been so excited.
Thank you. Honor is ours. Thank you. So thank you, and it was an amazing session, and how kids can actually influence not just their siblings, but also bring newer ideas at the home front. So I think that's the living example. I think we have crossed already our time frame, so I would straight away jump into our panel discussion and straight get into our illustrious panel for the evening and for the morning for various other people who joined from different parts of the world. It was such a joy to put together this panel and who we have in the room. I'd like to invite Tavi Joda, amazing friend. And the best thing is whenever he calls me, "Hey friend, I'm there," right? That makes my day most of the time. Whenever I discuss green childhood with him, he says, "Let's do it together." That's what makes the day, the brighter. And the most brighter is when he agreed to be part of our panel here. So Tabi is an award-winning indigenous agroforester, author, and eco-entrepreneur. He leads 1 billion trees for Africa, one of the biggest projects that probably Africa has ever seen, an initiative that's going to be planted almost 3 million trees between 2010 and 20. He is also the ambassador for Africa Great Green Wall Initiative. Welcome, Tabi.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you, my brother. Namaste.
Namaste.
Yeah, and
thank you.
And thank you, everybody, all the green citizens of the world.
Thank you. I'll like to invite Radhika Suri, Director of Environment Education at WWF India. It's country's leading conservation organization. She's begun drafting an environment education strategy that's been implemented across 14 states in the country. Amazing feat. And I think, again, thank you, Radhika, for being here and being part of this particular panel. And I hope we can do justice to the time that we spent over here.
My pleasure, Amit. Happy to be here and a very important discussion.
Thank you.
Excited, yeah.
I'd like to invite Nina Hamilton. She leads the North American Association for Environmental Education Global Youth Leadership Initiatives, which works to recognize, connect, and empower young people, shaping sustainable communities around the world. Welcome, Nina, and I think your participation would really make a difference, because the kind of work that you've been doing with young adults and youth, primarily with NAI, it's going to mean a lot to this particular panel. I'd like to invite a very special guest, Irfan, who's a 17-year-old conservationist, environmentalist, and naturalist who's always loved nature and the natural world. He started researching scientifically on animals and plants at the age of 10. I don't know when he studied, but yes, he's among us now. Hi, Irfan. And this panel would love to get most out of your understanding of nature in last 7 years of your early days. So Irfan, you're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Amit. I'm ready to speak.
Pleasure to have you here. And now it's time to bring our host and moderator for the panel, Edison, who's been, while working with her, she's become a dear friend. And I think most of our conversations have been so one-sided that she keeps on saying, and I pretend that I'm listening to her or probably understanding whatever she says. But yes, Edison, thank you. Thank you for being here. She comes up with a very illustrious career based out of Hollywood. So I don't think Hollywood speaks her language normally, but I guess but she's among us. She's a writer, documentary film director, and podcast host based in Hollywood. She creates transmedia stories as a fundamental and immersive form of communication. She is the co-founder of Emerging World Project, a collective of conservationists and artists telling stories of nature around the world. And I thought that Edison would be one of the best person to moderate this because she brings a little different experience than all of us. One, every storyteller has a much deeper perspective about life. And at the same time, she's worked and learned a lot of things beyond US, right, which brings her to a different perspective altogether. And I hope that we have a very stimulating discussion now. Over to you, Edison. You're on mute. I'll just request everyone to go off mute. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I hope that I can do some justice here. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think it's one that, of course, did need to be started a long time ago, but we're here now, and that's the most important thing, in that we're having this conversation. What I think is one of the best parts of this conversation is that we are all from different backgrounds with very different perspectives. And what I have learned in telling stories around the world is that these perspectives matter, and the perspective from people from their own communities are very powerful and very different from my own. So when we started the Emerging World Project at the onset of the COVID pandemic, we knew that the world was changing. We had already, as scientists and conservationists, been watching for many years, and now we were stepping into it where the world was about to really get hit with a lot at the same time. So from the perspective of a storyteller, I think looking at these changes in our world and how they affect us because of the interrelatedness of every single thing is what we as artists and conservationists wanted to do. And also to look at the psychology as our own psychology changes when we talk to different people, when we learn about different people and the importance of their communities and what's happening in their communities as a result to climate change. So with that, I'd love to start conversations where we think about, especially as we go into talking about green childhood, where we're thinking about when we noticed our own personal relationship to nature. And I'll just say in brief why I think this is an important starting point is we have grown as adults to sort of view this experience as something separate, something that's happening. That's a beautiful bird out there. That's a beautiful river. And maybe perhaps forgetting what our relationship is to that. And I found that if we sort of ponder that a little bit, it will open up our minds and open up that aperture as to how important and how interconnected we are to the whole and not separate. And for a lot of us, myself, very much so, that has been a major point in changing how I live in the world and my awareness in the world. I can accumulate a ton of facts and information, but when I go outside and I am in direct communication and experience with nature as part of it, then my aperture opens and I find that ideas and answers come. So I would just like to start with everybody perhaps jumping in with when they first noticed their relationship with the natural world. And because your names are really small, I'm just going to let you raise your hand and jump right in instead of me calling on you, if that's okay. Who would like to start?
I can go first if you want.
Wonderful.
Radhika, yeah. So can I go? Addison,
Absolutely.
I have a very interesting story which sounded like trauma when I was a child. So I had a father who was a total nature enthusiast and loved going for morning walks because he found it very, beautiful. But I was all of, 7, 8, and I didn't understand. For me, that was mania. And I lived in a place, where it used to rain a lot for 4 months. So I was very excited that, these traumatic morning walks would stop where we would look at nature. And well, he didn't stop it. He, got us huge umbrellas and we continued to go out in nature. And somewhere there, that connect grew so strong that my eyes totally changed the way I looked at the world. And I didn't realize what was happening for me. It was just a child who was being dragged out every day. And once I was out, I was very fascinated. And our favorite spot was looking at the ants. So my hero is not a tiger that influenced me, but a tiny little ant. And so this childhood kind of, I didn't even realize what had happened. And I went on in life, influencing friends, loving plants, watching trees, I did it very automatically. But then later on, when I became an educator, I realized I set up only green schools. And this was way, way back. And I didn't know that an ant could have influenced me. And today I work in the environment sector. So a small thing. And in our times, we didn't have so much waste. We didn't have so much money. So, it was a different green childhood. It was a childhood but I just knew I was connected to nature. And that's how, my whole life has turned out. So I think so that's when that was the point. And then it naturally flew into my life and it's never left me. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. That really is. That's wonderful. Nina, how about you?
Yeah, I'd love to share. And I will say I get asked this question a lot. And you think as an environmental professional, it would be an easy one, but it's so, it can be really hard to pinpoint that one moment when it feels like just as far back as you think, you feel like you've had a connection with nature. But I really thought hard about this one. And I think it was really just having the freedom to explore our backyards and the kind of wooded natural areas around wherever I lived, and having that freedom from my parents to just go and explore and pick up twigs and, discover birds' nests. And I don't really have a good memory from like 5 years and younger, but I very clearly remember our backyard from when I was 5 years old. And I think that really says something about, where I was spending time and what was really connecting with me. And that of course turned into, I was clearly in awe of nature and of these spaces. And that turned into going to see wildlife and national parks and going on hikes. It turned into bigger things and even more awe for nature, but it really started small and really close to home. And I'm just really thankful for my parents, for whether they knew it or not, for giving me that freedom to go and explore and really encouraging that, and then building on that when they saw that I had, was building that interest. So I think that's where that connection and my, I would say my awe and really respect for nature started.
That's beautiful. I love hearing, of course, that we have the inability to come up with one instance, but once we start to think about one of them, they all start to roll in, and we never really related. Like, I always tell the story of how I made pancakes from the inside of acorns. And I never thought about it until I was asked the question, like, how did you, I was asked the question, and that memory came, and then it just comes together. It's food. It's this thing that was outside that I was making into something that I could nourish my friends, the squirrels, with. So, and then the trickle effect happens. And I think when we stay, I feel as if when we stay connected to that trickle effect and keep checking it, right? Keep checking it. Always slowing ourselves down enough to check. Have I appreciated nature today? Have I received the grace of nature today? And have I given to that? Always checking that, no matter what, from the tea that's in my cup, right? From the bamboo sheets that I may sleep on. And somehow, at least my experience has been, it wakes it up, and for me, the ideas flow. It's like, oh, and I loved listening to the twins, because it's never too early. It's never too early. Perhaps the harder parts of what's happening, the harder parts that are hard to digest for us, even as adults, need to be looked at with a little caution. But when I mentor children in the wilderness, I sort of combine the two. This is the beauty, and this is how we're losing the beauty of this, and how losing the beauty of this affects us. So, anybody else would love to share? Erfan, how about you? You're on mute.
Oh, thank you very much. So good day to all.
Hi.
And before I begin, I want to say I'm truly honored to be able to speak to you all today. And a special thanks to WeNaturalists, Dr. Amit and his team, for everything they do and have to do in the future as well. When I think of how all these things started, it's a bit tricky to think of it. Since when I was a child, 5-6 years old, and I used to sit in the garden and just look at the whole biodiversity that's going on. The butterflies coming and feeding on the nectar. The butterflies themselves later being fed by birds and all these things. And that was a realization that if we take the planet as a whole, it operates just like a living, breathing organism, made of countless different species, working, like its organs, each with a, different role to play. And later that came to my mind, but I was at the point of time when I was having a drive in a huge road with my grandfather, and there was a time when there was an Iranian tortoise that passed from that road. And back then I didn't actually know that what I see there is soon going to be one of the rarest creatures on that time. Years passed by, and I saw that, well, I don't see it anymore. I don't see the tortoises anymore. I don't see the amount of butterflies I saw that time. And that made me realize that for any of the biomes on Earth to work, the plants and animals, fungi and microbes within them must all play their part. Because it is the entire world that works as a group to help the whole living world function. And it's pretty difficult to tell where it started, because since the childhood I had this love for the natural world. All my toys have been of animals and all. But then I think the main thing that I realized that when all these things started was the time when I saw that tortoise, that made me realize that we are eliminating the natural world. We are replacing them with ourselves.
Yeah, that's difficult to digest and to start your young life on with those kinds of concerns. Yeah, it's difficult. Tabi, I'd love to hear.
Okay.
I'd love to hear what your early childhood memories might be.
Yeah, nice. First, I want to say thank you for the organizer, and thank you all for turning up, because this meeting speaks the depth of my mind. If there is anything that I worry of when I go to, I worry on when I go to bed and when I wake up, is the state of the earth. What would be the next days? So these concerns have been the biggest concerns in my life. And if you check on my hands and on my body, I have 7 scars that are as visible as, you know, anything that you can see from 7 meters, you know. And this is because when I was just 4 years old, my dad and I always goes into the landscape, because first, all the trees in the family landscape were all cut down, and I was 4 years old. And then I had this challenge with my father. It was really a controversial moment for me, because each time the rains are threatening to fall, my dad will hold my hands and say, "This is the planting time." And I will say, "No, I'm not going." He has to force me. I have to be with him, and we have to plant hundreds of trees every day that the rain's falling. And when I was 8, 9, I started appreciating the essence of that action, because while that was going on, I didn't like it. To be very candid, I didn't like it. It was not fun, because we have to be under the rain, we have to be planting, I have to hurt my legs. So I had like 7 physically visible scars on my body that lives with me, and I'm sure will live with me till the day I go to my grave. And these scars are an indication of all the pain of all the time under the rains, and the tons of the trees that I encountered when we were growing the forest. And we grew more than 40,000 native trees in my native community. And as a result of that, these were indigenous trees that produce food, fruits, nuts, and oils that coincidentally were sold to sponsor me to school, primary, secondary, and university, perhaps even giving me the knowledge that I have today to be able to speak with people like you, and to be able to appreciate and even understand how to use the internet. So this is a historical milestone that goes deep down into a childhood pain that turned into a pleasure and also into massive gains. So to say, when I was 7, 8, I started appreciating that these trees were producing beautiful fruits, beautiful nuts, beautiful, nice, essential oils that we were using them. I have never used cosmetic oils from any shop. Anyway, since I used the oils from nature, from the trees and from, the shrubs. So this changed my perspective since as a child. And because it helped me through school and changed my perspective from a very tender age. And as you can see on my, perhaps on my DP here, you can see the photo there. If you see it very well, this is like some 7 years back. And I told myself that because this became again to me, I came out of university, I'm not working for the UN, I'm not working for any agency, I'm working in the forest that my father and I planted when we were young, producing essential oils, producing nuts, producing fruits and roots and medicinal plants that actually give me income and has created 79 jobs and through 40 value chains. So the whole scenario is a scenario of a historical mix of pain and pleasure that actually instill a strong sense of natural love, beauty, satisfaction, and of course, that serious yearning for more and more lands and more families to have this kind of biodiversity, richness, and resources that I was born into, and how these most essentially can be resourced to just bring back our lost biodiversity values and assets that are actually diminishing, with our eyes, seeing them going, and the loss of ecosystems that are degrading landscapes, creating resource scarcities that are tearing communities apart in unhealthy competition for scarce resources that are resulting into violent conflicts that are sometimes displacing people, at sometimes creating human suffering disproportionately for people who did not intend or perhaps actually make this happen. So we now have innocent, involuntary victims of biodiversity loss, ecosystem depletion, which I feel very strongly that the kind of childhood that I had, as Anne Admit started this discussion, that other children all across the world need this kind of orientation, to see beyond their childhood, to see beyond the vulnerability of their childhood, just like children or just being children. They should see beyond and perceive a livelihood of resilience and becoming the ambassadors of solutions that can catalyze the new kind of microeconomic systems that are based on revived, thriving biodiversity and ecosystem services that creates the abundance and the riches that I am currently living in, that should spread across the entire globe, from India to America, from America to Latin America and Asia, creating a world that is reversing these humanly or these man-made degradations that have placed us where we are today. So it pains me a lot. I can speak on this from now till the next day because I live this life. But what hurts me very much is I don't want to see these pains. I don't want to see these twin children that just spoke earlier becoming victims of what they did not intend, what they didn't invest, what they never aspired. Their aspiration is sustainable, resilient, and a safer world. And that's, of course, the background where I come from. And I look forward to sharing perhaps more as we move forward.
Right.
In the interest of time for us to speak. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Who did I miss that would like to start off and give us a little bit about their relationship, noticing their relationship to the natural world? Or we can move on, because Tabi touched on a couple of things, and I don't know about you all, but one thing that did spark me was this anxiety that young people are already feeling so early on in their lives by inheriting something that they did not, in fact, do, which in turn creates anxiety for us adults, who then feel like we have to take responsibility, and we all have to take responsibility. But I guess my question is, what kind of projects are we thinking about that not only will introduce and get children, young people engaged, because engaging in direct action is really what's going to change the culture and our values. We have to really take a deep look at our values once again. And I believe that for young people to be directly engaged in action is huge. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Let me just swing into that so that I perhaps just to continue what I was saying earlier on. Addison, sorry, very straightforward.
No problem.
It's a very big anxiety And the reason why we need these and we need to heavily emphasize and work strongly on this is because 30 years ago, the president who is the now president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, didn't have this orientation. If he had the mining exposure or reckless mining activities that are going on in South Africa will not happen today. The president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, 30 years ago didn't have this orientation. Modi in India didn't have this orientation. Biden in the United States didn't have this orientation 30 years ago, as well as Angela Merkel in Germany, and of course Macron in France. I can perhaps, I'm not saying they didn't have, but I'm not sure they had this kind of anxiety that we are having now when they were our ages or when they were younger. So if we have 30 years to go for the SDGs, for the NDCs, for the Paris Agreement, for the Sendai framework, different global frameworks. These are just frameworks on paper that need foot soldiers, that need research, that need implementation, that needs conversion of commitment into concrete actions. That means the human framework of children, kids, adolescents with the right dose of orientation, knowledge, moral, ethical standard, ethical behavior that gives them the foundation of love, passion, interest, and anxiety for a breaking ecological system and how to be solutions. If they have this orientation like we are doing now, then 30 years to come, the Bidens of that time will be greater, better, more environmentally conscious Bidens.
Did we lose him?
Yes, I think so.
Radhika, I would love to hear what project you have worked on or are working on, which I'm sure probably have changed or shifted.
That produces green.
Radhika, would you like to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah,
fantastic.
Okay. So in WWF India, we have been working in the space of environment education for nearly 50 years now. And we started with a program called Nature Clubs of India, where we used to take children out to nature and, take them for camps and do the traditional things. And in India, we obviously, like for us, like I said in the beginning, that when I was a child, just connecting with nature was enough. Our life was pretty sustainable from the way we ate, the way we shopped. So, the needs were not like that. So 6 years back, in India, we already have an environment education, mandated program by the government in schools. But it's very knowledge-based here. And there's a lack of action. So 6 years back, we launched a program. It's called Ek Prithvi in Hindi, which means one planet. And we take children out on nature trails. We make them do a lot of activities that kind of, brings back, because this generation is very disconnected from nature. So it begins with, bringing that connection. And after that, we give them themes and projects to do. So you take food, you take water, and so they learn a little bit about it, the knowledge part of it, and then they go into what is the issue, and then they finally go solving it. And that at times takes them to the community. And what we have realized that the whole action part of it is very, very interesting for the children. So experientially, they learn. And what they realize at the end, that even if they are children, their actions matter, because they can actually see the change happening, even if it's set, a cleanup or setting up a waste segregation system or gardening or whatever. So we kind of work in a way that where they actually do something and their actions count and the community recognizes it. So this is the model we've been using, and it's been running across the country in around 11 states. And it's been 6 years now. So we are hearing a lot of stories of change. We did put in an M&E into the system. Very hard to measure impact in environment education. But we did reach out to Stanford University, and we have done a M&E with the children, and it's on behavior change. But of course it's quite critical, but we have done a baseline on that. So yes, attempting to do that, but yes, very action oriented work, and looking at all the themes these days. It's biodiversity, it's water, it's food. So whatever is relevant today. Yes.
Right. I would imagine that we have to look at how to measure these and discover ways that we can measure the favorable impact, so that we can continue to run those types of programs. The experiential aspect is hugely important. Feels hugely important to me.
Addison, also I'd like to add, like Tavi was saying, time is short, and therefore organizations who do work, we should not get too captured in our programs. We should always be critical about, is it really working, is it not, how do you get it better? So I think so M&E is very very important.
Right. And all of us communicating about what is working and what might be working.
What's not working.
Exactly. Nina, I would love for you to speak on that with what program you're working with.
Yeah, so climate anxiety is real. I feel it, and I know that young people around the world are feeling it. One thing that we are doing, we have so much going on as a network. I support the Global Environmental Education Partnership, and we are a network of networks. But one thing that we do through our youth leadership program, EE30 Under 30, is it's partly about recognizing young leaders that are doing amazing things around the world using environmental education. But a big part of that is creating this platform to really shine a spotlight on their stories and their journeys and who they are as leaders, and partly their journey through their green childhood and what led them to the path that they're taking right now. And I think showing those positive stories, showing those positive kind of figures that young people can look up to, and looking up to other young people that might, that look like them, I think can be really powerful. And it can really help relieve that kind of helplessness that we can feel when we see all these doom and gloom headlines. And it is important. It is so important to know about the issues and to know about the urgency of all of these issues. But I think climate anxiety is partly a result of just really focusing on those issues and focusing less on, there is a lot of great stuff going on around the world and a lot of great stuff being led by young people. And I think giving young people that opportunity to see other young people doing amazing things can help them think, okay, I can do this. I have the capacity to make change. It doesn't have to be at the global level. It can be in my community. It can be with my church. It can be with my school. So that's just one way that we're trying to, I guess, relieve that a little bit and help people see themselves in, taking these actions and feel like, okay, I do have the capacity and the ability to do this in whatever way makes sense for my community.